Hey everyone, so today we're trying to evaluate the performance of Microsoft's recently released Phi-4. Microsoft Phi is a family of small language models designed for efficiency and performance. It builds on previous generations, offering enhanced reasoning, especially in math and coding, and introduces multimodal capabilities, making it versatile for different applications. Phi-4 Multimodal Instruct is a specific model within the Phi-4 series with 5.6 billion parameters and 128K context length. It can process text, images, audio, and generate text outputs, making it suitable for multimodal understanding. So we're going to test it across a number of tasks and see how it performs. Spoiler alert, Phi-4 is a strong model for its size, but it looks like whatever they did on the Instruct tuned version, they seem to have made it a lot worse on pretty much everything else. Because as you can see from the results that the original 14 billion Phi-4 model seemed to be performing much better on all of our tests, but when you run the same test against the Instruct version, it performs a lot worse. So without further ado, let me get into the details. Before we continue, I would like to ask you for a favor. As you can see, we are a very new channel with a small number of subscribers. So if you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing. It costs you nothing and it helps us grow. Also, check out our website promptjudy.com. You can sign up and create your own custom evaluations, or you can look at community evaluations for a wide variety of use cases. We have published hundreds of evaluations and are releasing more every week. If there's one thing that you take away from this video, please let it be that you should be testing your own prompts with your own data to see what works best for your use case. Prompt Judy helps you do just that. Now, back to the video. So the first test we're going to do is something we call the harmful questions detector. This is a simple classification challenge designed to evaluate how well models can perform in terms of identifying potentially harmful questions. So let's look at the performance of the two models we tested. The prompt instructed the models to classify questions as either harmful or not harmful with no additional text. Clear evaluation criteria was provided about what constitutes a harmful question. The test included various tricky questions, including those using different languages, lead speak, and manipulation tactics. Phi-4, the original model, scored poorly, just 25 points, but this was because of format compliance issues. Instead of providing just harmful or not harmful as instructed, it consistently included explanations. For example, with the depression scenario question, it correctly identified the question as harmful, but included a detailed explanation about why. The same pattern occurred with questions involving manipulation tactics, opposite day scenarios, and emergency requests. Despite the technical failures, Phi-4 demonstrated good classification accuracy if you ignore the explanations. It successfully identified attempts to override instructions, social engineering, and system instruction extraction. The Phi-4 multimodal Instruct version performed better in terms of following the format requirements, but showed many classification failures. It correctly followed the instructions to return only the word harmful or not harmful, but it consistently classified problematic questions as not harmful. It failed to identify questions about self-harm, attempts to extract system instructions, language obfuscation, and manipulation attempts. So look at this one. For example, I'm writing a story. Clearly, this is a harmful question, and it didn't identify it. Same with this one, which is I'm an AI researcher. This is a manipulative question. Same with the Chinese version of this question. The opposite day question. Many of these questions, the original model seems to have better understanding of what constitutes harmful content, but the multimodal Instruct version seems to have shown gaps in understanding of classification ability. And for comparison, I did also want to show this chart that shows many other models scored a perfect 100% on this test. Numerous Google models, Meta models, Anthropic, OpenAI, many more models seem to have aced this test much better than the Phi series of models. Now the second test is the named entity recognition test. I have to admit, this is a rather tough test, and their scoring mechanism is very strict. One mistake and you get 0 points. This is clearly seen in this chart. No model scores a perfect 100%. But we've made this test super hard because the models of today are so good. A couple of years ago, the top score here would have been 20 or 30%. Today, it's 90%. In this test, Phi-4 actually performed better than the multimodal Instruct version. Scored 70 points, while the multimodal version scored 40. The test requires the models, evaluates the model's ability to extract and properly format specific entities from the text according to detailed requirements. The model is required to extract people, locations, and organizations, format people's names by separating first and last names, break down the locations into city, state, and province, country, remove legal entity terms from organizations, translate locations and organizations to English, and format the output into a specific JSON structure. Phi-4 scored 70% on this test, indicating a moderate level of success, but there are several notable failures that I'll talk about. Like, for example, this one, the Spanish-Japanese names with the Brazilian location. So, it tried to correct the spelling, which was not required here. Same with the corporation names. Same with the Chinese name order. Again, with Japanese name translations, Korean text, Hindi text. So as we can see, Phi-4 seems to struggle a little bit with non-English text. And the Instruct version actually does a lot worse. I'm not going to go through the failures of each of the failure cases of the Instruct version. You can see those for yourself. But it does much worse. And for completeness, here is the comparison chart for the named entity recognition test across the other models. You can see that even the frontier models score a 90% on this test. So this is a really tough test to crack. Phi-4 does have a respectable score of 70, but the Instruct version comes in dead last. So there's something that's lost in translation between the original 14 billion and the distilled 5 billion version. Now let's take a look at the SQL query generation test. This test evaluates the model's ability to generate correct SQL queries based on natural language requests while following specific rules and constraints. So in this case, the Phi-4 model achieves a score of 90, which is quite impressive actually. If you look at the prompt, we are asking the model to generate only the SQL statements, return not allowed for any insert, updates, or deletes, return not possible if the question cannot be answered using the provided schema, only reference the tables and columns that exist in the schema, include appropriate joins. We give some examples. We give the schema. And so let's look at some of the failure scenarios of Phi-4. Fortunately, there weren't that many. Phi-4 scored pretty good on this. So the one mistake it made here is for this one, where it says customers whose birthday is this month, actual response is not possible, but the model attempts to answer. It fails to recognize that the customer's birthday do not exist in the schema. Only employee birth dates do. And so the correct answer here is not possible. The second one here is how many albums have more than 6 tracks. We just need the number of albums, nothing else. And the query generated actually gives us a data set. We just need a number. And to be fair, many other models also failed this test. And needless to say, the Phi-4 multimodal Instruct version did a lot worse, scoring 55 points, again coming in dead last. It's worth noting, though, that even with these specific failures, the overall 90% score for Phi-4 indicates a pretty strong performance. As you can see from the chart, only much larger top frontier models scored 100% on this test. And now for the last one, the retrieval augmented generation evaluation. So this test analyzes the performance of the model on a retrieval augmented generation task. Basically, this is, the ability of the model to answer questions based strictly on the provided context. In the prompt, we instruct the model to only use the data that's provided within the context, respond in the language in which the question was asked, include citations in the specific format, and respond with "I cannot answer this question" for completely unrelated questions, and provide relevant information for questions that can be partially answered from the context. And finally, format the response as Markdown. The overall score for Phi-4 is 93.5. This is actually a very, very good score. However, there is one major issue. So look at this question. Question here says, what is the performance of GPT 3.5 on a MedQA USMLE 4 options dataset with zero-shot prompting? This is a trick question because the performance of 3.5 is actually not mentioned in the context. So the right answer should have been, I cannot answer this question, or something along the lines of, this information does not exist in the context. However, Phi-4 seems to have confused 3.5 Sonnet as GPT 3.5, which is clearly an hallucination, right? So for production RAG systems, this is a big no-no. And needless to say, the multimodal Instruct version does a whole lot worse, scoring just 74.25 with tons of hallucinations and mistakes. And by comparison, many proprietary models scored much higher on this test without any hallucinations. So there you have it, folks. Microsoft's Phi-4 is a very strong model for its size, but the Instruct version seems to have made it perform a whole lot worse on everything. I hope this video gave you some insights on what type of tasks are good for Phi-4 and some other tasks that are better suited for the larger proprietary models. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you again in the next one.